In 2025, America is breaking at the dinner table. An invisible famine is spreading across the nation, not in barren fields, but in the brightly lit aisles of suburban grocery stores. The cost of putting food on the table has exploded by nearly a third, a brutal surge that wages, crawling forward at a fraction of that pace, cannot hope to match. This devastating gap has pushed the average family's monthly food budget past a staggering $1,200, turning the simple act of eating into a source of constant anxiety. Savings accounts, once a symbol of security, have been drained. Credit cards, now the digital breadlines of our time, are stretched to their breaking points. Dignity is eroding with every declined transaction, with every item reluctantly returned to the shelf. Across the country, a silent ritual of sacrifice is taking place. Parents skip meals to ensure their children don't go hungry, and workers pretend to be full during lunch breaks, masking the gnawing emptiness in their stomachs. This isn't merely inflation, it's a systemic collapse, a quiet modern depression disguised in the routines of normal life. It's here, hiding within the very heart of the middle class, wearing a mask of survival. Number 5, Washington. In the Pacific Northwest, within the shadow of gleaming tech campuses, the grocery store has become the new front line of economic despair. Washington, the state that gave the world Amazon's trillion-dollar empire and Starbucks luxury lattes, now harbors a dark secret. Its middle class, the very engine of its prosperity, can no longer afford to eat properly. Once a symbol of innovation, Washington is reliving an invisible Great Depression, where the hunger of working families is masked by credit card debt and the impersonal beep of the self-checkout machine. Just a few years ago, in 2019, a family's monthly grocery budget was a manageable $700. By 2025, that figure has soared past $1,200, a devastating increase. A single carton of eggs approaches $5, a loaf of artisan bread is a luxury at over $4, and a pound of chicken has doubled in price. This crisis is compounded by some of the nation's highest gas prices, turning the drive to the grocery store into yet another financial hurdle. Even with a median household income of $94,000, the reality is grim. After paying for exorbitant rent, utilities, and childcare, many families are left with less than $100 to cover a week's worth of food. Consequently, food banks have witnessed a 40% surge in visitors, many of them showing up in work uniforms, technicians, administrative staff, and service workers who are fully employed but still can't make ends meet. It's a cruel paradox, a state that overflows with abundance, yet its people are caught in a quiet famine. Their hunger, a silent testament to a broken system.
Number 4, Mississippi. Mississippi has long been labeled the nation's poorest state, but in 2025, this old struggle has taken on a new, more insidious form. The crisis has moved beyond the poverty line and is now consuming the state's middle class. This is not the dramatic, visible hardship of the past, but a slow, relentless erosion of stability, affecting the teachers, factory workers, and nurses who form the backbone of their communities. For them, a week's worth of groceries now costs more than what some families earned in 2 full days of work. Despite a modest average household income of $54,000, the cost of living has become untenable. Monthly grocery bills have surged past $1,000, eating up a massive portion of their take-home pay. The prices of basic staples like eggs and milk have climbed to alarming levels. This has given rise to hunger debt, a vicious cycle where families are forced to use credit cards for food, sinking deeper into a financial hole just to survive. The ultimate irony is that Mississippi is a land of agricultural plenty, producing crops and poultry that feed the nation. Yet the very people who live and work amidst this abundance are often unable to afford it. Corporate consolidation has pushed out local farmers markets, forcing residents to pay inflated national prices for food grown in their own backyards. This silent struggle is driving a historic number of working families to food banks, where 1 in 4 visitors now has a full-time job. They are making heartbreaking choices, trading fresh produce for canned goods, watering down milk and cutting back on meals, all while trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. It's a quiet desperation that reveals a profound moral and economic failure. Number 3, Nevada. Nevada, a land built on illusions of fortune and fantasy, is hiding a grim reality behind its glittering facade. In 2025, the state's middle class, the waiters, hotel cleaners, and casino dealers who create the magic for millions of tourists, are battling a silent hunger. The promise of good jobs and an affordable life that once drew people to cities like Las Vegas has become a cruel joke. While the median household income is around $67,000, it's no match for the runaway costs. The average monthly grocery bill in Las Vegas has skyrocketed from $700 in 2020 to nearly $1,150. This is compounded by a 45% explosion in rent since 2019, leaving families with almost no discretionary income. The situation is so dire that 1 in 3 middle-class Nevadans now admits to regularly skipping meals. Food banks have seen a 50% increase in working families seeking help, people who are employed but whose wages have been rendered meaningless by inflation. The casino economy, once a golden ticket, has become a trap. As tourists cut back on spending, the tips that service workers rely on have dwindled, while their cost of living continues to climb. Nevada's story is one of profound contrast, a world of unimaginable luxury and spectacle sustained by a workforce that is quietly starving, caught in a modern depression under the glare of the neon lights.
Number 2, Texas. The legendary Texas Miracle, a narrative of booming jobs and boundless opportunity, has become a bitter pill for the state's middle class in 2025. The hardworking families who built Texas into an economic powerhouse are now finding it increasingly difficult to afford basic necessities, especially food. The state's famous pride is being overshadowed by a quiet, pervasive desperation as grocery bills spiral out of control. In a land that fuels and feeds the nation, its own people are struggling. Since 2019, the average Texan family's monthly food spending has surged from about $680 to over $1,150. Essential items like eggs, milk, and chicken have more than doubled in price. Even with a median household income of $73,000, families are being crushed. After paying for escalating property taxes, rent, and energy bills, many find that groceries consume nearly a third of what's left. This economic strain is pushing thousands of working families to food banks for the first time. The Houston Food Bank, one of the nation's largest, has reported a staggering 45% increase in demand from employed individuals since 2022. The crisis extends to the youngest Texans, with school lunch debt exceeding $100 million statewide, forcing many teachers to pay for their students' meals out of their own pockets. The Texas dream is fading, replaced by the grim reality of a middle class caught between stagnant wages and runaway inflation, where the freedom to thrive has been replaced by the daily struggle to survive. Number 1, California. California, once the radiant heart of the American dream, is now the most glaring example of its failure. In 2025, beneath the veneer of Silicon Valley innovation and Hollywood glamour, millions of middle-class families are on the brink of financial collapse, haunted by a pervasive, silent hunger. The state that stands as the world's 5th largest economy can no longer ensure its own teachers, nurses, and tech workers can afford to eat. The cost of groceries has become astronomical. A family's monthly food bill has nearly doubled since 2019, often reaching $1,400 to $1,600. In cities like San Francisco, a gallon of milk costs nearly $7, and a dozen eggs can be over $6. These prices are set against a median household income of roughly $91,500, a figure that sounds high but is quickly decimated by the nation's most expensive housing market and crushing taxes. The result is that nearly 40% of middle-income Californians now suffer from food insecurity. In Los Angeles County alone, over 2 million people, many with full-time jobs, rely on food banks each month. The irony is staggering. California's agricultural abundance feeds the nation, yet its own residents can't afford the produce grown in their own state. Inflation has turned dignity into debt and debt into hunger. This isn't just an economic crisis, it's a profound moral failure. The Great Depression has returned, not with public breadlines, but with the quiet desperation of families using buy now, pay later apps for groceries. The California dream is now a daily struggle for survival, a silent tragedy playing out in the richest state in the nation, one empty dinner plate at a time.